Hello. I just wanted to check in with all the followers of the Morpheus development. I have not been streaming lately, primarily because my computer has not been up to the task of both developing and streaming. So it's just been a lot more efficient for me to just hammer out the code and not have to worry about how slow my computer is running. That being said, I have been continuing to work on Morpheus, and I just wanted to take a moment to give some updates about where I am and what's been going on. So, anyone who's been watching knows that I've been working for a while now on a big code refactoring, which was brought about because as I was adding new features to the code base, it was becoming really difficult both to add new features because I had to make changes in a lot of places in the code base for any given feature, but also because I was having a lot of problems with bugs in that every time I added a feature, it ended up breaking something else somewhere. So the refactoring was an attempt to solve some of those issues so that I could be able to add new features more quickly and without breaking everything every time I did it. So it took a lot longer than I expected, but we got through that and was able to get back to feature parity of where I was before I started the refactoring, and even added some new things. So that's why I thought it would be a good time to go ahead, take a stop, a break, and make a video instead of trying to stream. So what have I been working on? So one of the things I've had to do is rewrite the from the ground up, from scratch, a script that I used to convert all of the original game assets from their original files, like the files that ship on the CD of Morpheus, to the ones that I'm using in a web browser. Because the web browser can't play those movies. And it was originally just based off of going through all the directories in the game and converting the file. Now, it turns out that a lot of the files are used differently in different parts of the game, and I had to be a lot smarter about how I was doing that. And so instead of just looking at the files when I'm converting them, I'm actually looking at the Morpheus data as well. And I look at how is this file being used in the game, and then make decisions about how I need to convert the file. Because some of the files, I mean, most of the files are movies, but some of the movies are actually just movies that have no video and audio track, or movies that have a single frame in them, so they're basically an image, or movies where they're only intended to be used with a single frame from that image being used in different places in the game, or even movies that really just needed to be like a single image with all of the frames of the movie written out to it. So I think I'm pretty close to have accounted for most of the special cases. I've played through the game a bit since now the game's a little bit more playable, and see there's still a few things I need to catch, but pretty close here to getting all of the files in the right format for how I want them. This also led to a nice, interesting byproduct in that I converted all of the panoramas They used to be, in the original game, they're just a movie with 24 frames, and if you play the movie, it's like you're spinning around. And I had originally just split out those movies into 24 separate images, and then would load all 24 images at once and then create the panorama. It's a lot more efficient, actually, to just go ahead and have a single texture and then just wrap that around. So it's actually pretty cool, because I have now all of the scenes in the game in these really cool ultra wide panoramas, as you can see here. So it's been kind of cool just to look at them all, and you can see how some of the different states of the game are actually there in the panoramas. So I'd like to do something with these. I might make like a little side project web page that just lets you see them all in some way. But it's pretty cool. I was pretty happy just to see all those. So that was a week and a half, almost 2 weeks of work, just figuring out how I needed all of the game assets. And so then I got to work, head back into the game. And so some of the new things that I have here are we can now go in and out of a lot of the puzzles. For anyone who's played on soapbubble.online, and this version is not there yet, this is still just running locally. There's a few things I need to do to get all the game assets up on the cloud and get it to work, but it used to be that once you visited a puzzle like this, you could never get out. You were stuck there and you had to reload the web page. So now we can get out. Not always looking in the right direction, because I'm not remembering what direction we were looking before, but we can in fact get out. And some of the things are starting to work in the puzzles. Specifically, vertical and horizontal sliders are now working. And then another pretty neat little thing that is working is that animations can now play inside of a single frame puzzle. Let's go back in here. So as you can see here, we got this little flashing light here. Oh, what is that? Could it be? Ah, it's the Electric Man. Is it really the Electric Man? Look at that. Isn't that cool? The movies are playing. So we can actually now work through some of the presentations in the game and be able to even get all the way back out. Most of those scenes there, they're supposed to do a nice little cross dissolve. Haven't done that, just trying to get things to work at this point. But as you can see now, we've got horizontal sliders, vertical sliders, and they even remember. So there's game state. So if I put something in a particular spot, it's going to stay there. The game is going to remember. It's actually an interesting little bug, because when you move these guys, it's actually supposed to update these dials, and there are other places where that works. I'm still trying to figure out why it doesn't work here. Long story short, it looks like I don't have a game state with that ID that I'm expecting in the original data. I haven't exactly decided what I want to do about that. I might probably just create it myself. So now, and then also the click to watch movies are working. So like, for example, if I go to here, we can click an area.
Young man,
and,
don't you know you're poisoning your body and your soul?
These movies are working now.
Now put it out. Keep Keep it up, young man, and you'll burn in torment.
Oh, I'm just a trembling. What are you anyway? Some kind of a fortune-telling witch or something? Loosen up, Miss Grace. We're not in the home anymore.
What you can't do is cancel movies. You have to watch the whole thing. Oops, little bug here. As you can see here, I'm always looping movies. This is a case where I do not want to be looping a movie. So as you can see here, there are still places where you can get stuck, but there's not as many of them. We're knocking them down. Vertical and horizontal sliders. We can see another example of that. You see here, we ended up at I don't have any error control. If something happens in a scene, this is where you end up. And in this case, this is a case where it's expecting to do a voiceover narration, and I haven't done the sound yet. So that's why we ended up there. But if I go to the bridge, look here. There we go. We can vertical sliders. I kind of actually wanted to get the XY sliders. That's probably what I'm going to do next, because that'll let us actually aim and fire the flare gun. Should be super cool. So, what are we still missing? Well, obviously, I just mentioned the sounds. If we play a movie, then that movie can have sound that works, but I don't try to load any of the sound-only files, and those are the things for like the voiceovers and the background music, which is not that hard to do. I've just been trying to get to this point here where I can actually start working the puzzles. There's all kinds of additional controls that need to be implemented. Rotation controls, pins, counters for going up and down. There's other custom doodads as well that are needed for some of these puzzles to work. And I mentioned before the dissolves. I still need to get those put in. And I showed you that you can actually change the game state, and so the game remembers when you make a change now. But I don't have any way to save and load that, so we need to have a way to be able to actually save your progress. My thinking along these lines is, I'll probably start using browser storage first, so that if you visit the game on the same browser, you can restore your state. Moving down the line, I do have a web service that sort of backs the game, so you'll be able to create an account, save your game state on the cloud. That sort of stuff is all very possible. And then sort of the final thing really is optimization. Creepy. The game, I've been able to knock down a lot of the memory usage of the game. I'm starting to try and clean up things in the game as I am when I'm done with them. But one thing that is really bugging me is the CPU usage for the game is just through the roof. So if I drag this over here, processes, here's Google Chrome, hardly using anything. Well, of course, now that I'm trying to show how much CPU it's using, it seems to hardly be using any. Might be a function of the fact that I'm recording and I am encoding this on the GPU, and that's fighting with what the game's doing. But basically, the game tends to use 60 to 90% of my CPU while I'm playing it. And I've done some profiling of why that is, and it has a lot to do with the JavaScript 3D library that I'm using for all the panoramas and doing things like these movies inside here, and even how I detect hotspots for these 3D panoramas are done using this library called 3JS. Has made it very easy to do these things, but I'm starting to realize as I look at the profile of the code that it has a lot of overhead, and it does a lot of things that I don't need it to be doing because it's a library for being able to do really complicated 3D stuff. And really, most of the stuff I'm doing here is rather simple. In fact, the first prototype of the game that I wrote when I decided that I wanted to make this as a web browser, I just implemented being able to view a panorama. You couldn't control it. It just went around in a circle for you. And I wrote all the WebGL code myself. Didn't use a library at all. Wrote it, raw JavaScript for WebGL in a browser, which was great. It was exciting to get that to work. But then as I needed it to do other things, I was running into this problem of, I had to rewrite everything I wrote because it could only do the one thing that I did. And if I needed to do something else, now it's a lot of work. But I'm thinking at some point here for this to really be complete, I'm probably going to have to go back and do that. Actually just go ahead, once I know everything I need to do in 3D land, either I need to rethink how I'm doing some of these things, or, like I said, just write it from scratch, because we're spending a lot of time, even when we're idling and not doing anything, just running a lot of code, and it's always every single frame it's pushing data out to the GPU, and it doesn't need to be doing that, but it doesn't know that it doesn't need to be doing that. So there's a lot of room for improvement there. Well, I think that's about it. So as you can see here, the new code base is looking pretty good. I've been pretty happy with the new code. It's been a lot easier to work with and to add these new features. And I am looking forward at trying to continue to add the features. And it looks like we can't end up here. I can't actually do it. And I'm stuck. I found a place that I'm stuck. Gonna have to, there's still lots of things to address here to actually make this into an actual playable game, but still making progress. All right, thank you, and until I either get the game optimized or get more memory or both, I'm probably not going to stream as much as I had been before. I think maybe it was easier before when the game wasn't doing as much, but now it's a little bit more difficult running the more fuller experience in the game and doing the streaming. But I will try to put out these updates to at least share with everyone where I am. And I know there's a few things I need to do to be able to get this big update ready to go on to production into soapbubble.online, but I will work on that because I want to be able to share this with other people, and then maybe other people can find bugs that I'm not even aware of. There you can see that this is the idling CPU usage that I'm talking about. That's no bueno, no bueno. All right, thank you, and see you all next time.